Now, I just want to talk, the main purpose behind this video was a quick chat about tarps versus tents. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I'm always going to advocate sleeping in a tent. If I want to sleep here, I'm going to set up a tent and sleep in a tent, period. I'm not going to sleep on the ground. I'm not even going to have a raised bed off the ground to sleep on. I mean, snakes are going to come up. You know, a raised bed is only going to give you psychological comfort. I'm going to sleep in a tent if I wanted to sleep here. As a shelter, as a roof to work, as a base camp, this is fine. This is what you call a secondary shelter. A tarp, in other words, is only good, or it's best as a secondary shelter or emergency shelter. I don't think I need to talk about emergency shelters. Emergencies are emergencies. You've got a tarp, you can have a roof if it rains, or to get off the ground as a ground sheet, wrap yourself up and so forth. That's emergencies. But as a secondary roof structure, tarps are fine. So tarps should be used, as far as I'm concerned, as emergency / secondary shelter roof systems. If you want to overnight and sleep, whether it's here in a base camp, in your backyard, or in a remote mountain, you need a tent. And I'm always going to advocate tents. Now, YouTube seems to be full of millions of people in their tarps. And people say, I used to sleep in tents, now I use tarps this, tarps that, tarps. That's all you need. A tarp is a secondary / emergency shelter system. Now, why do you want to sleep in a tent? What you want is a nice, enclosed, protected space you can just crawl into and have a good night's sleep. You can't do that under a tarp. You're going to have insects. I mean, look, I'm not too paranoid about snakes, to be honest with you, but that's a factor. It's not so much snakes, it's mosquitoes, it's insects, and so forth. Now, have a look at my videos already online. Expedition number 2. There was a major camping trip we did into a remote mountain in northeast Thailand. That pretty much settled the debate as far as tents versus tarps. We had a tent, we slept on a rock by the river, there was no room for a tarp, there were no trees for ridge lines, there was insects, there was potentially snakes around. That expedition trip, a proper camping adventure trip into the mountains, you know, there's no way we would have slept under a tarp. It'll be impossible, absolutely impossible. A tent was the way to go. You can take a tarp with you and make a secondary roof if you like. But if you want to sleep, you set up a tent and crawl into a nice protected cocoon.